China needs water. China is embarking on its largest weather modification project yet as it attempts to bring more rain to the Tibetan mountains. Climate models predict that the Tibetan Plateau, which holds Asia's biggest freshwater reserve, could see severe drought due to decreased rainfall and rising temperatures. In response, China is building combustion chambers to turn solid fuel into silver iodide for cloud seeding and placing them on steep mountainsides. Winds help produce an upward draft that sweeps the particles into the clouds, where they then induce rain or snow. The plan is to bring precipitation over an area spanning 1.6 million square kilometers, or 3 times the size of Spain. 500 chambers have so far been deployed in Tibet and Xinjiang. The science behind the project may not be groundbreaking, but is the first time such a large-scale use of the technology will be attempted. China is even reportedly using cutting-edge military rocket tech and tasking space scientists to build the combustion chambers. Make it rain or shine.
The United Arab Emirates wants to build a mountain to solve a drought because why not? If there's one country that likes to think big, it's the United Arab Emirates. When faced with a water shortage, the country is ditching the boring option to conserve and instead has opted to build a huge mountain for more rainfall. Compared to the international average of 170 to 300 liters, an average United Arab Emirates resident uses 550 liters of water daily. This is especially problematic as water in the region is in very short supply due to the arid climate and naturally low rates of precipitation. The government has already turned to artificial methods. $558,000 were spent on cloud seeding in 2015. Now $400,000 is going towards funding a development plan for man-made mountains. Mountains force air to rise up into the atmosphere. There, air cools and become clouds that can then be seeded for rain. The cloud seeding can have undesirable outcomes such as too much rainfall or none at all. Due to the rain shadow effect, an artificial mountain can inhibit rainfall on one side, causing that area to become more parched. Experts from the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research in the U.S. are in the early stages of the project. A modeling study is being carried out to determine the location, height, and width of the mountain.
No going back. As global warming gets progressively worse, some scientists are considering engineering the climate to cool it down, but a new study shows it may do more harm than good. Stratospheric aerosol injection is a form of geoengineering that involves spraying sulfur dioxide into the upper atmosphere to form clouds that reflect solar radiation. Using computer models, a study found that spraying 5 million tons of sulfur dioxide above the equator every year for 50 years could drop surface temperatures by 1 degree Celsius. But if sulfur seeding suddenly stopped, the planet would warm rapidly, with temperatures rising several times faster than the predicted rate. Plant populations would die out, and wildlife, especially amphibians and land animals, wouldn't be able to migrate quickly enough. The loss of just one species could impact an entire ecosystem. It just goes to show how tricky it is to mess with something as unpredictable as climate. So despite all the benefits we think geoengineering might bring, we're probably better off focusing on reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Cooling the planet at a cost. As temperatures on Earth reach unprecedented highs, extreme, potentially disastrous weather will become more likely. Scientists say there may be ways to intervene, but warn they come with risky consequences. Researchers are investigating strategies for geoengineering, one of which is mimicking the effects of a volcanic eruption. Erupting volcanoes spew out large amounts of sulfur-rich gases, which help cool the Earth by reflecting solar radiation back into space. The same effect could be recreated using planes that would inject sulfur into the atmosphere. But to cool the planet by 1 degree Celsius, 6,700 injections are needed eventually, which would cost $20 billion annually. This approach also risks destroying the ozone layer and reducing rainfall, enough to potentially cause droughts in certain regions. A similarly drastic approach to cooling the Earth can be achieved by thinning heat-trapping cirrus clouds. Seeding causes the clouds to break apart and lets more heat escape. The seeding process, however, must be precise, otherwise new cirrus clouds may form elsewhere and add to warming. But while sulfur injections and cirrus cloud seedings will cool the land, carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere remain the same, and ocean acidification continues. As such, researchers argue the two strategies should be deployed more as a last resort, adding that reducing carbon emissions are much more effective at curing climate change. Could geoengineering help save the planet? With global warming causing heat waves and rising sea levels, and potentially bringing about more devastating consequences, scientists are turning to climate engineering solutions to keep temperatures down. Geoengineering has two approaches to cool the planet: carbon dioxide removal and solar radiation management. Taking the direct air capture approach is Swiss company Climeworks, which uses several collectors to suck in air that contains carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is filtered and collected, while other air molecules are returned to the atmosphere. A separate Harvard project, meanwhile, is working on dimming sunlight. The team plans to release limestone particles using a high-altitude balloon and then observe its effect on the stratosphere. The limestone spray will supposedly reflect solar radiation and slow greenhouse gas warming. It will also neutralize the acids that destroy the ozone, thus helping to restore that protective layer. Another technique aims to cool the seas and prevent coral bleaching by spraying salt generated from saltwater to create more reflective clouds. Critics of geoengineering warn that such solutions are a temporary fix and run the risk of dealing more damage in the long run. It's definitely a radical step from reducing carbon emissions, which many believe is the more effective way to curb global warming.